Hi, my name is Dr. Hugh Wegwerth, and I want to thank you for taking some time here to listen to the Autoimmunity workshop. So one of the things that I ask is all my patients, before I meet with them to talk about their autoimmune condition, whether they have lupus, irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, thyroid conditions, fibromyalgia, is you watch this video. This video is an hour and a half, but it lays the foundation of exactly what an autoimmune condition is and how we actually would approach your case and how you'd actually get better. So what I found in the past is one of the things that's really missing in our current conventional system is education. A little education, a little time, and a little love. So this is, I've developed this webcast specifically for you, so when we meet, you're going to actually understand what an autoimmune condition is, and you're going to get the maximum benefit out of our time together that we're going to spend. So ultimately, you're going to need to be educated on really what's causing your autoimmune condition, and this lays the bedrock. So when we meet for the hour, you're going to be fully informed, and you're going to know exactly what's going on and the approach that we're going to take. So I hope you find this valuable, and I look forward to seeing you in my practice. Take care. Okay, well, welcome to the Autoimmunity workshop here. So we're going to get going, and hopefully you find this next hour really valuable, so you actually understand what's causing your problem. So I'm assuming if you're listening to this webinar, you'd like to feel better, and you're probably frustrated with the way your condition's been handled, or you're frustrated with the results that you've actually gotten. So I'm going to tell you a little story here. And there was this professor, and he absolutely despised alcohol drinking. And he walked into his class. Now you want to envision this now. So he walked into his class, and he had two glasses, one glass filled with water and the other glass filled with alcohol. And he actually had two worms. So he stuck one worm in the glass with water, and the worm swam around just fine and survived. And then he had the other glass with alcohol, and he stuck that worm in the glass with alcohol, and that worm started thrashing around and hitting the side of the glass, and it ended up dying, right? So then he held up the glass with the alcohol and the dead worm, and he said to his class, students, what does this represent? And an eager student in the back raised his hand and shouted out, well, professor, if you drink alcohol, you're not going to get worms, right? So obviously there was two different viewpoints there. There was the professor's viewpoint, and then there was the student's viewpoint. So I hope today that you're going to see my viewpoint on how you can actually get better when it comes to your autoimmune condition. So that's my point. So my promise to you, I like to give a couple promises. My promise to you is by the end of this autoimmune workshop, you're going to know more about your autoimmune disease than any doctor that came before me, whether you have Crohn's disease, irritable bowel, thyroid disease, Graves' disease, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. You're going to know more about your condition than any doctor that came before me. Now you're probably thinking, well, how the heck can that be? So there's a couple themes here that I'm going to be talking about here tonight, and one of them is this first thing here is you're only as healthy as your individual cells. Right now you have some kind of autoimmune condition or disease because your cells are not healthy, your body is not healthy. So you're literally 100 trillion cells. You're literally a spirit in a cellular being. So we have to figure out why your cells are not healthy. Now, Time magazine stated this: the secret killer is what? What's that word right there? Inflammation. So what we're really going to be talking about is, you might want to take notes on this too, is the more inflammation you have, the more autoimmune diseases and condition you're going to have in your body. So higher inflammation, more autoimmune condition. So inflammation is the root cause of disease. So we got to decrease your autoimmune condition. So right off the bat, how do we know if you're inflamed? So one of the indicators that we know if you're inflamed is scientific research shows that 70 to 80% of your immune system is located in your small intestine. That's basically, your small intestine is roughly 25 feet long. So 70 to 80% of your immune system is located in that particular organ. So what does that tell us? That tells us the first organ system we want to try and fix and make sure is working correctly is your digestive system. Your small intestine, that's what we're talking about, 25 feet long. Now, how do you know if you have an autoimmune condition? How would you know that? Okay. Here is regular, normal digestive system bowels. Okay, so you should have regular bowel movements. What's regular? 2 to 3 times per day, day in and day out. So let me repeat that. Regular bowel movements, 2 to 3 times per day, day in and day out. They should be consistent, right? Day in and day out. You should have no bloating, no gas, no diarrhea, no constipation. Day in and day out. You should have exactly no attention from basically your mouth to your anus, right, to your butt every single day. If you have a lot of attention, if you have gas, bloating, if you need to take antacids, that's a bad sign. If you change from constipation to diarrhea, that's a bad sign. That's telling you that your digestive system, your small intestine, is not working and healing correctly, which is 25 feet, right? That's 25 feet of your digestive system is 70 to 80% of your immune system. So right now, right away, if you don't fall within regular bowel movements 2 to 3 times a day, they're consistent day in and day out, and you don't have any attention on your digestive system, right there, that tells you that your most important organ, which contains 70 to 80% of your immune system, is not working correctly. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about leaky gut a little bit as we go forward here. So I want to ask you your permission here. So, you know, when I do these lectures, I always want to make sure that I can tell you the truth. I'm going to be speaking to you honestly and not holding back. So one of the sayings is, you can't kill the what? You can't kill the messenger. I'm only the messenger of this information trying to get you better. So let's go on. Let's actually figure out, you know, what is an autoimmune condition? What is autoimmunity? So here we have a car. Now, I'm going to use this analogy that when you have an autoimmune condition, it's like your immune system has had a few too many drinks. Just like this car, you see this driver right here, he's seeing double. You know, there's a double car, double sign, double dividers in the street there. So what happens when you have an autoimmune condition? Your immune system starts to see double. Now, depending on how bad your autoimmune condition is, it might see 2, it might see 4, it might see 8, it might see 16, it might see 32, might see 64 different cars there. So how does this relate to your autoimmune condition? When you have an autoimmune system, your immune system cannot differentiate. That just means it can't distinguish between a good guy and a bad guy. So this is a really key concept. It can't distinguish between a good guy and a bad guy. So what happens here is if you have an autoimmune condition, your immune system is going to be attacking more. Your immune system always wants to be more aggressive than under aggressive. So basically what happens is when you have an autoimmune condition is your immune system is hyperactive. It's going after everything because everything looks foreign because it's had a few too many drinks, so it sees double, and it's always going to be on the safe side. It's going to attack something versus let that thing pass. Now, to give you an example, if someone has HIV or AIDS, that's the exact opposite. That's when your immune system down-regulates. That's why when someone has AIDS, if someone coughs at them, they could possibly die just from a cough because their immune system is so depleted. Now, autoimmune condition is the exact opposite. It's accelerated. Your immune system is going to be overprotective rather than underprotective. When it's overprotective, it's going to attack your body. So what we need to do is we need to sober up your immune system. That's what functional medicine does. It sobers up your immune system. So if you have an autoimmune attack against your skin, let's say your cheek, that would be considered lupus. If you have an autoimmune attack against your thyroid, that's considered Hashimoto's thyroiditis. If you have an autoimmune condition against your digestive system, it's irritable bowel or Crohn's disease. If you have an autoimmune attack against your joints, that's considered RA. So it just can't distinguish between friend and foe. So your immune system is always going to be, it's always going to be more aggressive than underaggressive. So when you look at that, when someone has an autoimmune condition, if you're diagnosed with one autoimmune condition, you probably have dozens, I shouldn't say dozens, you have multiple autoimmune conditions, meaning that you're going to have multiple areas in your body that your immune system is attacking. So let's say you're diagnosed with lupus, you probably have an autoimmune attack against your thyroid, you probably have autoimmune attack against your digestive system, and maybe even have autoimmune attack against your joints at a much lower grade level. Okay, so what is my credentials? I always think you ought to know who you're speaking to, who's your presenter. So my name's Dr. Hugh Wegwerth, and this is what I'm not. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a gynecologist. I'm not a radiologist. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a psychologist. That's not my doctorate. My doctorate's in chiropractic. Now, my postdoctoral training is in this: functional endocrinology, functional neurology, functional nutrition, and functional blood chemistry, and how all your systems work together. Because on this webinar, I'm going to tell you, you're just not a lupus condition. You're just not an RA condition. You're just not your diagnosis. You have to look at you as a human being. You as Mary, you as Joe, you as Bill, you as Jill, you as Jennifer, right? You as Mara. You have to look at you, right, as an individual person. You have to get to the root cause of the problem. You're on this webinar because you haven't found the root cause of the problem, and drugs are not going to get to the root cause of your problem. That's just covering up your symptoms. So that's a little bit about my credentials. I practice in Roseville, Minnesota. I've been practicing here for over about 17 years, actually. So what I do is what we call functional medicine. So what is functional medicine? So functional medicine is the application of an alternative, holistic measure to show people how to reverse thyroid conditions, endocrine issues, hormone issues, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, and the like. Now, why do they call it alternative? I mean, we could really talk about that, day in and day out. The truth of the matter is, what functional medicine is actually getting to the root cause of your condition. Once you get to the root cause of your condition, you're going to get better. Now, throughout this webinar here, I'm going to show you how I actually approach cases and how I actually get to the root cause of the problem. I tell all my patients that they need to do, if they do a program, whatever it is, if they're taking medications or whatever, it needs to be attainable, sustainable, and permanent. So your program needs to be attainable, sustainable, and permanent. So when you're done watching the seminar, at the end here, there's going to be an opportunity for you to schedule and come in and see me one-on-one, and I'm going to go over a program at that time that's attainable, sustainable, and permanent. Now, are drugs attainable? Yeah, you can get drugs, anywhere. Are they sustainable? Meaning this, you can take these medications without any side effects. They're definitely not sustainable. And are they permanent? Meaning, if you stop that medication, your problem goes away, right? And they're not permanent either. So the program I'm going to lay out is going to be attainable, sustainable, and permanent. So a question I like to ask, or propose, I guess, would be a better term on a webinar, is: are we in a health crisis? So then I just want you to just take a couple seconds and think about, why are we in a health crisis? And you can name a bunch of things: diet, genetically modified foods, too much sugar, not enough exercise. We go over a laundry list of why we're in this health crisis. And let's face it, it's not getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So one of the biggest things that I do in my office, and what this webinar is for, is to educate you. You're suffering. You need help. Obviously, you're watching. You're going to invest your valuable time into watching this webinar. You need some help. So what functional medicine is education. A lot of my program is educating people so they actually know why they got in the health condition that they're in and how to reverse their conditions. So education is power. A lot of my program, or some of my program, is educating you so you know how to get better. Because once we get you better, we want to make sure that you can maintain that optimal health, that health that you've regained. And how we do that is through education. So this is a slide here on cholesterol. So this is on Crestor, right? So this medication has been marketed to decrease your cholesterol. Meaning, if you take this medication, if your cholesterol is at 350, your cholesterol is going to go to 200. That's what that medication should do, and it does that. In fact, it does it very, very well. Now, just take for a minute here. If you were to do that, if you were to take this medication, let's say your cholesterol goes to 250 to 300, what should that prevent in your body? That should prevent cardiovascular disease, such as heart attacks, heart disease, and strokes. That's what this medication should prevent. Now, you're going to take this medication basically until you decide to get off this medication or till you die. Really, that's how the insurance companies want these medications, is to take this medication forever and ever and ever without any endpoint in this medication. So this should prevent, right, if you're going to take this, and this is a hardcore medication, it should be heart disease, heart attacks, or strokes. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to blow up. You see that yellow line there where it starts off, where it says Crestor right there? Okay, I'm going to blow up that line there, and we're going to kind of read this together. So let's just start right here. So it says Crestor has not been determined to prevent heart disease, heart attacks, or strokes. Crestor has not been determined to prevent heart disease, heart attacks, or strokes. Now that is clearly in their advertisement. It's like, that's the line I just read right there, right? So, what's happening with our current society where this drug, which has many, many side effects, millions and millions of people are taking this. In fact, this is the #1 leading prescription medication in 2013, it was. And they think this is actually going to prevent heart disease, and it actually doesn't. Right? So this is why I'm so passionate about this. This is why I'm glad you've invested some time into going over this webinar, because it's going to change your life. There's answers for you. This comes from the federal government. So this is on the drug safety. There's the link down there on cholesterol levels. It says, in February 2012, the FDA released a statement indicating that statin drugs cause what? Cognitive effects such as memory lapses and confusion. Wow. Now, why is that? Cholesterol is your best friend. If you have an autoimmune disease, you need cholesterol. So what cholesterol does is this drug strips the cholesterol out of your cells, and that causes your cells not to function well, and you're only as healthy as your individual cells. If you don't have enough cholesterol, you're chronically inflamed. Not enough cholesterol, chronically inflamed, more autoimmune disease. I like this slide. This is another great slide. This is if you have a thyroid condition, right? So if you have a hypothyroid condition, you're going to be put on Synthroid or Levo. That's the two medications you're going to be put on. So just read this. Synthroid and Levothyroxine, which is a thyroid medication. If you have a thyroid condition, you're going to be put on this. Came out of the market what year? 1955. 59 years ago. Right? So this is the washing machine from 1959. I don't think anyone on this webinar has this washing machine since 1955. Right? The technology is way advanced. Same thing with the cell phone. First cell phone was 1985. No one's walking around with this big cell phone. Right? It's actually called a brick cell phone. So my point being here is there's a lot of technologies, a lot of functional medicine getting to the cause of the problem that's been developed since 1955 that's just not out there because it doesn't have to do with a drug. So this next slide here is going to be on thyroid. Now, if you have, it doesn't matter what autoimmune condition you have. If you have an autoimmune condition, your thyroid is not working correctly. And in a couple slides, I'll show you why that is. So what % of your cells need thyroid hormone? 100%. So why is that so significant? 100% of your cells need thyroid hormone. Not every cell needs testosterone. Not every cell needs progesterone. Not every cell needs estrogen. But 100% of your cells, 100% of your cells need what? Thyroid hormone. So thyroid hormone actually needs to get deep into your cell, into the nucleus. So we need thyroid hormone. And guess what? If you're inflamed, if you have an autoimmune condition, your cells are not healthy. When your cells are not healthy, hormones cannot get into the nucleus where they need to be to turn on things. And you're going to have chronic inflammation, chronic autoimmune disease. So what does thyroid support? So thyroid supports bone metabolism. So if you don't have good thyroid working in your body, thyroid hormone, you're going to have poor bones. Look at how much osteoporosis we have. Immune system. Thyroid controls or partially controls immune system. What's an autoimmune condition? Immune system that's not regulated correctly. Brain, nervous system. Look at this. Irritable bowel, Crohn's disease. These are autoimmune conditions. Liver, gallbladder, sex hormones, fat burning. So if you don't have correct thyroid hormone, if thyroid's not getting into your cell, fat burning is turned, guess what? Off. Fat burning is turned off and fat storage is turned on. So not enough thyroid hormone. Fat burning is turned off. Fat storage is turned on. It helps glucose, insulin, healthy cholesterol, and this right down here, proper stomach acid. I just want to spend a couple minutes with this, or a couple seconds. So if you're taking the purple pill, acid reflux medication, GERD medication, all that does, that affects your acid in your stomach. You don't produce enough gastric acid in your stomach. Now, why do we need acid? We need acid because what does acid do in the stomach? Acid allows us to break down foods, break down minerals, break down zinc, break down magnesium. It helps us break down all the food so it can produce something. So, for example, if you eat a steak, that steak turns into hair. If you eat a steak, that steak turns into hormones such as like serotonin, a good feel hormone. So we need proper stomach acid to digest food. So if you're on these acid medications, you're not digesting your nutrients all the way, and you can actually be obese but be malnourished because you are not actually digesting your nutrients to make your body strong. So this next video I'm going to show you is a patient is a patient of mine. Okay, now she's had a couple different diseases. She's had a thing called Graves' disease, which is where they actually they actually tore out her thyroid, right? So they irradiate it. So Graves' disease is when your thyroid produces too much. Most people have hypothyroid, not enough. She had hyperthyroid, which is Graves' disease, and they totally ripped it out. So if she has no thyroid and it's totally ripped out, and you have a thyroid, right? So you're if you still have your thyroid, you're many miles ahead of artists here, getting better because you actually have a thyroid. You actually have your thyroid, and she also has another problem. She has Crohn's disease. Now, if you're listening to this, if you have Crohn's disease, I mean, this is a very debilitating disease. She would tell me she would go and walk in to the store, and the first thing she would look for was a bathroom, right? She would miss games, she would miss events, she would miss the family events because she didn't know when she was going to have an accident, right? Just imagine that. She didn't even know when she was going to have an accident. That's horrible. So I'm going to have you listen to her success story so you can actually see that there's live people just like yourself that can get better. What condition did you have?
It was just called Graves' disease. I had no idea what.
Right.
I mean, the reason I went is because I got the shakes so bad, which at that time could have been a lot of things.
Yeah, right.
You know.
So basically, Graves' disease, it means that you have no thyroid.
No thyroid whatsoever. Now they burned it out.
They burned it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and now I'm finding. I don't know if it's because I'm getting healthier, but I'm finding I'm feeling different than I did before. Now I notice the heat. Before I noticed nothing.
Tell us about your before you came in, you had Crohn's disease.
Yes. Crohn's disease, well, most people know what it is. It's a horrible, ishy disease. I don't wish that on anyone. But since I went on this functional medicine and I've been doing what you tell me to do, I don't have problems with Crohn's disease.
And how long did you have Crohn's disease for?
Oh, many years, since probably 1986, I think, when I was diagnosed.
So 86, 96, 2006.
That's a long time.
20
I'm old, okay, I'm 70. How much more do you need?
That's 25 years of Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
And it's gone, yes.
Wow.
I have no problems at all. Thank you and God.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's great. That's awesome. You, when it comes to your sleep, you had to take sleeping meds, right?
I took 2 every night. Yeah.
And even with that, you weren't getting good sleep.
No, I never got more than 5 hours of sleep in a night, ever. Not more than 5 hours. Now I'm sleeping 7 hours, and I wake up fully awake and can jump out of bed and do something, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I've lost about 24 pounds, and I've got a long ways to go, but I feel better. I feel much better. I can't believe how much better I feel.
That's awesome.
And my golf game has improved. And I can walk the course.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
So if you come to see any of these doctors here, I'm suggesting you do the functional medicine, go all the way. I really, really believe in it. And I have never felt so good in such a short time. I mean, I'm amazed. Yeah.
That's good.
It took you a while to get across to me that I was important enough to do your functional medicine.
Yeah, it did.
Because that is something that most people are leery about doing. You know, it's an out of pocket expense, just something that you just don't do for yourself. And then I thought, why wouldn't I do it? I would spend that kind of money on a vacation or anything else, and I'm so glad I did it. It's unbelievable because it absolutely changed my life. It really did.
So, I mean, that's pretty awesome. So, I mean, Artis was, just like you. I mean, imagine having Crohn's disease for 30 years and not having an answer and avoiding games, not going to grandkids' games, all because no one cared enough about her. No one educated her. No one gave her any love and explained to her there's actually a path out. The only thing she was ever given was what? Drugs and surgery. And that didn't help Artis, right? Artis has been searching for a long time to get better. It just takes a little love, little education. That's why I'm doing this webinar. Okay, let's move on. Let's actually get to some really interesting things. So this right here, this is part of your digestive system, your small intestine. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is if you were to cut your finger, okay, so just imagine you cutting your finger and blood coming out of your finger. If you have to cut your finger, or if you've cut your finger, in order for you to bleed, in order for that cut to be that deep, you literally have to go through roughly 10,000 skin cells, okay, before you hit blood. So your skin is a very, very strong barrier, right? Your skin is a solid barrier. 10,000 skin cells before you actually hit blood. Now, if you remember, what percent of your immune system is in your digestive system, your small intestine? Do you remember what I said initially? 70 to 80%. Okay, you can Google that if you want. So the majority of your immune system is in your small intestine. So this picture right here is a picture of your small intestine. All right. Now what you'll pay attention to, you see this right here? That part? That's the blood. That's the blood. Now check this out. You see this? That's a cell. So how many layers thick is it between the cell and your blood when it comes to your digestive system? That is how many layers thick. It is what? One cell thick between the outside world. So this is where your food is. This would be where your food. So let me orient you. This is your food. All right, that's your food. This is your blood. So it's one cell thick between the outside world and the inside world to your bloodstream. So how good of a barrier is that? That is a horrible, horrible, horrible barrier. Now, if we look at just the things that we eat that weren't here 100 years ago, genetically modified foods, pop, coffee, sugars, changing our diets, not a good healthy fats, all these things accumulate to a gut. When I say gut, I'm referring to your small intestine. That's bad. Now, I want to walk you through this process here because this is a key concept. You see how these cells here are what we call tight? And there's even a name there. It says tight junctions. So you see how they're tight? And then right here, they start to break down a little bit. And then what's happening here? It's getting larger. And then larger. And then look at the cells. You see how the cells right here are really starting to not be healthy? Right? They're starting to shrink versus this cell right here is nice and plump and it's thick. So what happens here, this is what we call leaky gut. Okay? Now what happens when you have leaky gut? And there's a million reasons why people can have leaky gut. And that's a whole nother webinar. But what happens is, let's say you have leaky gut and you have these little bacteria, right? In our digestive system, we roughly have 3 pounds of bacteria, good guys and bad guys in our digestive system. So what happens when this leaky gut, when these cells start to break down, guess what happens? These little things go from the outside. This is where your food is, right? So really that would be it's outside. From your mouth to your anus, that's the one thing, or your rectum, that's the one thing that's completely exposed to the outside, right? It's not inside you, that whole thing is outside. So what happens when this starts to break down, you have these big particles of things coming into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there. Now, for example, you see this right here, this is gluten. Gluten comes from wheat. So many people are very, very sensitive to gluten, which is gluten. So gluten is the protein in wheat. Okay, so when you have leaky gut, this protein gets in here, and guess what? That's a big protein. Then your immune system sees this protein, and if it has a big protein in here that shouldn't be in your bloodstream, what do you think happens to your immune system? Your immune system starts to do what? It starts to get upregulated. And your immune system starts to rush in here and starts to attack it, right? It starts to attack that little gluten particle. And when it starts to attack it, guess what happens? You get systemic just means all of your body. Inflammation. So you have inflammation all over your body. Now what happens is when you have this leaky gut and you have inflammation all over your body, your pain can come and go. Sometimes it will be in your knee. Sometimes it will be in your elbow. Sometimes it will be in your chin, your cheek. Sometimes it will be in your nose. Sometimes it will be in your big toe. Why? Because when it's in your bloodstream, it moves around. Okay, that inflammation will start to move around. Now, what happens here is your immune system has a memory. Okay, this is how vaccinations work. They give a baby a shot, which is the actual virus itself. Right, so they'll give people, like if you get the measles, they give you a little portion of the measles. Now, why is that? Because once it's exposed here, once this virus is exposed, your immune system recognizes it as foreign, and it can start to build a military against it. Now, what happens here is once your immune system sees that virus, right, in there, in the vaccine or whatever it is. Let's just say it's a normal virus and you got exposed to this when you were 3. Your immune system has a memory. So if you were exposed to this virus at 3 and you never got exposed to this virus again until you were 93, your immune system would still be able to recognize that, and then it will attack that virus. So your immune system never, ever forgets. Okay, your immune system never forgets. So what happens here is when you have this leaky gut, when you have this leaky gut right here, and you have this gluten that breaks in, your immune system attacks it. Now your immune system has a memory of what that particle looks like. Now this is a really key statement, this next statement. Gluten looks like your tissues. So let me say that again. Gluten looks like your tissues. What do I mean by tissues? It looks like your knee tissue. It looks like your cheek tissue. It looks like your digestive tissue. It looks like your heart tissue. It looks like your pancreas tissue. So, this is a key concept when it comes to autoimmunity. Your immune system, because it's chronically inflamed, becomes a little tipsy, right? It sees two lines. Then when it has this gluten in here, and it takes a picture of gluten, and it sees gluten, and whatever looks like gluten, it's going to attack it. So therefore, when you have this upregulation in your immune system, your body thinks the tissues are foreign because it's confused. It gets confused because you have a really bad leaky gut and your immune system is chronically inflamed. Anytime your body's chronically inflamed, it can't really see if that particle that got into your digestive system here is friend or foe. So it's going to think that most things are full, and it's going to attack that thing, and consequently, because it can't see clearly, it's going to attack many, many different tissues in your body. So when this happens, you're going to develop autoimmunity. You're going to develop food intolerances. You're going to develop a blood-brain barrier, right? So what I mean by that, you're going to have foggy thinking. Your memory can start to go. You can have systemic inflammation, which is inflammation all over your body. You're going to have malabsorption. Because look at this, when it comes to the malabsorption, you see how these cells are healthy right here? They can absorb the nutrients. Right here, it can't absorb the nutrients. Big things are getting in, causing chronic inflammation in your bloodstream. Your immune system gets confused, so it doesn't know if it's friend or foe, and it starts to attack everything. So what do we have to do? You have to fix the gut. You have to do lifestyle changes. You have to repair the digestive system. You have to repair the small intestine. All this stuff can be repaired through functional medicine. So what happens here? This is your cell. Right here, I like this term. You're as healthy as your individual cells. You're literally a spirit in a cellular being. Here's what happens. You have 100 trillion cells. Now, when you're chronically inflamed, when you become chronically inflamed, I'm going to use a real fancy word here. The outside of your cells become crusty. Okay? A very big medical term. The outside of your cells become crusty. So, let me just repeat a couple of things. You have chronic inflammation. You have chronic autoimmune condition. When you have chronic autoimmune condition, the outside of your cells become what? Crusty. Now, why is this so significant? When your cells become crusty, let's see, you have hormones out here. You have thyroid hormone. Okay, you have thyroid hormone. So I'm just going to put T out here for thyroid hormone. This is thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone. What happens is the thyroid hormone, to be active, I'm going to take you back to biology high school. You had the nucleus. You remember the nucleus? The nucleus was the brain of the cell, right? That's the brain. So the thyroid hormone needs to penetrate the cell wall, and needs to penetrate the nucleus and start turning on DNA. That goes for testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. They all need to turn on and get to the nucleus. These hormones need to get to the center of the nucleus. So, if you have any autoimmune condition, if your digestive system is not working correctly, guaranteed your cells outside here are crusty. When your cells are crusty, guess what? The hormone bunch tries to come in, and guess what happened? It bounces off. Or not as much penetrates and gets in. And that goes for every hormone in your entire body. Everything. Right? So when we look at a functional medicine approach, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make your cells healthy. You're only as healthy as your individual what? Cells. You gotta fix the cells. You have to get to the cause. Get to the cause. Once you get to the cause, you're gonna get better. Now, here's another thing. When your cells become crusty, right, on the outside here, when they become crusty, what happens is your cells, this is another component of autoimmunity, your cells start to look just a little bit different. So the outside of your cells, because they're crusty, just like a jelly donut. We have a jelly donut that's nice and fresh, and then we have a jelly donut that's a week old, right? The week old is going to be very crusty. The cell's not going to be pliable. That's what happens in an autoimmune condition. Now, when that happens, when the cells become crusty, they look a little different. Now, when they look a little different, what do you think your immune system is going to do? It's going to say, that cell looks a little different. I can't tell for sure if it's friend or foe, so I'm going to attack it because I want to be overcautious versus undercautious. So your immune system starts attacking your cells. This is on top of basically not your hormones not being able to get into the cell because the cell is crusty. Then you also have where your cells look a little bit different, so your immune system starts to attack it. And you can see how over a period of time your cells get worse and worse and worse. Your autoimmune condition gets worse and worse and worse, and you start to feel worse and worse and worse over a period of time. So what are some what are some symptoms of autoimmune condition? I mean, basically you can name pretty much any condition you have is going to have some kind of relation to an autoimmune condition. So all these here are related to some kind of autoimmune disease. Okay, so let's start to find answers, because in the grand scheme of things, there's lots of answers for you to actually get better. So that's the good news. So let's go over reading some labs. So up here, have you ever been told your labs are normal, but you still feel like what? You still feel like, a lot of people say this in my workshops, crap. Okay, so how can your labs come back normal and you still feel like what? Crap. I'm going to try and demonstrate what's happening. In our current medical system, you either have a disease or you don't, right? You either have high blood pressure or you don't. You either have hypothyroid condition or you don't. You either have high cholesterol or you don't. You either have diabetes or you do not. In our medical system, the conventional system, it's black and white. You either have a disease or you don't. And the reason that they do this is in order for the practitioner to get paid, you have to meet certain requirements. You have to meet certain measurements so they can actually get paid. They put a diagnosis on you on your forehead. They send it to an insurance company, and because you've met this criteria for example, for high cholesterol. If your cholesterol's 250, then they can manage you for high cholesterol. They can bill a code to the insurance company that's going to tell the insurance company you have high cholesterol of 225. That's why you're being treated. Now the cutoff for high cholesterol is actually 200. So if you have a cholesterol of 199, you're healthy. If you have a cholesterol of 201, you're sick and you need medication. So it's a black and white system. So just like glucose, I'm going to use glucose here. In our current medical model, glucose ranges is between 65 and 99, meaning this. If you have a glucose level of 98, you're considered what? Fine, right? Because you fall within the range. If you have a glucose level of 110, you're going to be considered abnormal. Now, in my experience, they don't even do anything when people have a glucose of 110. They just tell you to go home and try and change your diet and come back in 6 months, and hopefully it hasn't gone up to a diabetic range. So you can see these ranges are very broad, right? They're very broad, and it's black and white, or in this example, it's red or green. So you either have a disease or you have no disease. That's really not how how our bodies work, right? So what we do in functional medicine, I put in the dysfunctional range. So what's that? That's like the dysfunctional range. So it's you're heading towards a disease process. So, for example, if you're going to drive home, and just let's say here we take out the yellow light, right? So you're going to drive home, and the light just goes from red to green, right? Just like that. There's going to be a lot more wrecks, right? That sounds like our current medical system. There's going to be a lot more wrecks. So what functional medicine does is it puts in the yellow, meaning, slow down. Okay, slow down here, because if you don't slow down, you're going to be in a danger zone. So what the current research shows is the optimal level of glucose is 80 to 85. That's the functional medicine research shows. You want a blood glucose between 80 and 85. So if I see someone that's, let's say, at 96, I'm thinking, my goodness, what? You're heading towards a diseased state. Research shows is when you have a glucose above, let's say your glucose is at 96, let's say, your body is inflamed. You're heading for an inflamed condition, an inflamed state. So this is just for glucose. But when I read labs, and I ordered lots and lots of labs on my patients to go get labs, is I put in the yellow light. Okay, I'm putting in the dysfunctional area. I want to catch that sooner, not when they have a disease, but I want to catch someone here and bring them back there, and that can be done. Here's a study. You can Google this. This is a massive study on 46,000 people. What they discovered is for every point, this is fasting glucose, over 84, represents a 6% increase in the risk of becoming diabetic. So in other words, if you have a glucose level, fasting glucose, morning glucose of 94, you have a 60% increased risk for developing diabetes. I mean, that's a lot. So if you're at 85, let's say you're 85, you have a 6% increased risk in the future for developing diabetes. So here, it's 10 points over, so that's why it's 60 points. So let's put in the functional range. Let's get you functioning in the healthy range. I like this analogy. You're a piano string, all right? So just envision you as a piano string, and a piano string has like 80 strings or something like that. So, so let's say you have 3 strings that are, let me just flash back. Let's say you have 3 strings that are broken. Okay, so you'd have 3 strings that are in the diseased area. So on your piano string, you have 3 strings that are broken. And then on the piano string, let's say you have 20 strings that are out of sync. How is that piano going to perform? How is it going to sound? It's going to sound not very good, right? Just like you now. So if you have 20 strings out of sync and 3 that are broken, you're going to feel like what? C-R-A-P. Crap. All right? So this is just like a piano where we actually want to tune the piano. We want to fix all the strings that are broken, and then we want to fine tune and get the other 20 strings that are out of sync in sync. And that's what functional medicine, getting to the cause of your problem, does. So this is one of my patients, born in 1963. Born in 1963, she has a bunch of problems. Now, when you go to the doctor, right, when you go to the conventional doctor, your endocrinologist, wherever you're going, and they take blood work, how many vials of blood are they taking on you? You know, most people, they'll say, well, they take anywhere between 1 and 6. Rarely do I ever hear, 6 is like, really high. Right, so this is the average. I would say the average is between 2 and 3 vials of blood. So when you go to the doctor, usually they're running, they're taking anywhere from 3 to 6 vials of blood. Now, when patients come to me, I'm roughly taking 12 to 13 to 14 vials of blood. Why? Because that gets to the root cause of the problem. Now, a lot of people want to say, well, has anyone passed out on that? No one's ever passed out on that, but I've gotten a lot of sick people well that weren't getting results anywhere else because we found the cause of the problem. Now, this is, I also have a computer system, a program where I put your lab markers into this computer system, this program, and it produces this report. Now, what I just want you to see here is, you see all these reds right here? Okay, so these are all, those reds are all the broken strings that she had. Now look at all the, okay, so she has 11 reds and she has 14 yellows, right? So all these yellows would just not have gone, they would have gone overlooked, right? So when you really look at this on a functional level, get to the cause, you're really diving down and getting to the root cause of the problem, doing an appropriate evaluation to get to the results that you actually need. So this is just something that you can see, like the blood work is very, very in-depth. Another thing that we do is, this is hormones. This is a hormone panel. Now when you check hormones, you want to check hormones through saliva. Let me just repeat that. You want to check hormones through saliva. Now why is that? Because when they check it through blood, the hormone is in the blood. It actually hasn't gotten into the cell. When you check saliva, you're checking the hormone that's actually gotten into the cell. You remember the crusty cell I told you about? If your cells are crusty, can hormones actually get into the cell? No, the hormones bounce off the cell. So when you check these hormones in saliva, you're actually checking what we call the most active, or the free hormone that's actually in the cell. So when you do saliva checks, you're checking the hormone that's actually gotten into the cell, so we know exactly what's getting into the cell. Now this is a woman here. So I'm going to try and blow this up a little bit for you, see if I can do this. Okay, so here, yeah, I can do this. So this is good. So here, on the top here, you're going to see this E1 right here. Maybe I can't do that. Okay. So you're going to see, let me just point to this. Okay, you're going to see it's E2, which is an estrogen. Now look at the lab range here. The lab range is 1.0 to 10.8, right? And she's at 1.52, right? So she's at the very low end of normal. What we want to do when we talk about these hormones, I mean, you want to be like at 8. You want to be in the higher range of a healthy, normal person that has estrogen. Same thing with progesterone here. You can look at progesterone. Male and female need this. So you can see it's 11.9. Now where we want it is here, is 127 to 446. This is the normal healthy range, and preferably we'd want it like around 350. So you can see this person's hormones are really messed up. They're just not there. Then down here, I also have, we check cortisol. I don't know if you've ever heard of adrenal fatigue, but that's, you actually need your adrenal glands to produce energy and to make sure your thyroid's working correctly. What we take is, we take a sample 4 times in a day. This is saliva. So we check it in the morning, we check it at noon, we check it in the evening, and we check it at night, because these hormones work on a rhythmic pattern. So what I mean by that is, you can see this dark green right here. That dark green, that's where a normal healthy adrenal gland should be. Now you see these dots down here? This is a saliva test where we checked four levels in one day. And what do you see there? It's completely what? It's completely flat. I would describe this lady as like having a massive heart attack in her adrenal glands. Her adrenal glands are flatlined. Just like when someone has a heart attack and your heart becomes, the waves become flat. So it's really critical to make sure that you're doing the correct testing and getting to the root cause of the problem. Here's another test that we do. I'm just giving you a general overlook of the test that we do. This is a food sensitivity testing. So this is not, this is food sensitivity testing through blood. A lot of people say, well, I had some sensitivity testing. They did some stuff on my back, and I'm allergic to like weeds and pollen. That test where they did that on your back is not this test. This is through the blood. And you can see here, the higher the graph here, the more sensitive you are, meaning the more inflammation this is going to cause in your body. The more inflammation, the more autoimmune condition, and the more crusty your cells are. Therefore, your cells become a little different, and your immune system starts to attack them because they look different, and the hormones cannot actually penetrate the cell. So the higher the graph here, the more inflammation that's going to cause in your body. The test I do, it checks 96 different foods, and you can see how high she is here. So, she's really sensitive to dairy. In here, this is egg whites and egg yolks, not the beef, not the protein. This is the protein here. That's the protein up there, the beef and chicken. This is actually the egg, the egg yolks and egg white. Then down here, she's also very sensitive to corn and wheat, right? So what was she eating all day? Guess what? She was eating dairy. She was eating milk. She was eating eggs. She was eating gluten, corn, right? It's just a typical American. So her digestive system was very trashed. Now, this is what I tell people. If you stop eating these foods, that's going to help, but it's not going to repair the damage done to your digestive system. It'd be if you're going to reshingle your house, and let's say you ignored your problem on let's say your shingles are 35 years old, and the shingles on your roof are all torn up. Now, you take the shingles off the roof of the house, and there's a bunch of rotted wood. But you don't repair the rotted wood. The only thing you do is put new shingles down. So you leave the rotted wood underneath. So when it comes to changing diet, if the only thing you do is go gluten-free or dairy-free or try and eliminate these food sensitivities, and you don't fix your gut, and if you don't actually repair your digestive system, it's the same analogy as a house that has 35-year-old shingles. You just tear the shingles off and you throw new shingles on, but leave the rotted wood. You're still leaving the damaged cells there, the damaged wood there, and the problem is still going to exist. So you got to dive down deep and repair the shingles, repair the rotted wood, and then this is when someone really starts to heal and function much better. So this next testimonial here I'm going to show you is of Karen. She's been a great functional medicine patient here, and I'm going to show you some post labs of Karen here in a bit.
Health-wise, I was struggling with being pre-diabetic, but not on medication.
Mm-hmm.
I was having trouble sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
Constipation. My thyroid was, what do you call it? Hypothyroid, which I had no clue.
Right.
Which kind of answered a lot of the questions from the symptoms that I had.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's life like now?
Life is so much better. I feel better. I wake up in the morning, I'm bright-eyed and ready to go. I have more energy. I have no aches and pains in my legs and my feet like I did before.
Mm-hmm.
My skin isn't dry.
Wow.
My nails are much stronger.
Great.
My skin is clearer.
Wow. What about the constipation?
Oh yes, and constipation is 100% better.
Wow.
And I can sleep at night.
Where you weren't able to sleep at night?
Oh no, I'd wake up 2 or 3 times during the night, or I'd have a hard time getting to sleep at night. I feel so much better than I ever imagined I could feel. I feel like I did when I was in my 30s.
Okay. That's great.
Maybe even better.
Okay.
So far, I've lost 16 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very easy to lose weight now. I don't know, it's amazing. And I have no sugar cravings, so I think that has a big part in knowing how to handle the weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not constantly going for a snack throughout the day. I eat 3 meals a day, and that's it.
That's great. So would you recommend this program to others, and why?
Oh, definitely. If someone is feeling lousy and you don't know why, and your doctor continues to want to prescribe, this pill for this symptom and this pill for this whatever, don't do it. Try functional medicine because it works. I am totally a believer in functional medicine. After 1 month.
Just describe, how fatigued were you?
Oh, I'd get up in the morning. I would wake up in the morning, and it was a struggle to get out of bed. It was like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed this morning. I'm too tired. And then once I did get out of bed, it was work to walk to the bathroom or to the kitchen or whatever, because I had leg pains and that kind of thing going on, which the doctors said, well, that's just a sign of growing old.
Okay.
So I don't have that anymore.
Right.
I'm like, I'm a new person. And I have more energy. I'm more excited to tackle things throughout the day. I don't get that afternoon slump.
And one last question here, Karen. If someone was apprehension about doing functional medicine, what would you say to that person?
Do it. Think about your family and the cost of you not being around to be with them. Especially, I have 3 grandkids. I just had a new grandson in May. I want to be able to enjoy his life. And I want to be there to be with him,
Mm-hmm.
get to know him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, think about your family,
Mm-hmm.
not just you,
Mm-hmm.
but think about the impact that you can have on your family
Mm-hmm.
and help them to enjoy life.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's another success story. So let's go over some labs of Karen. So, from the prior slides here, you want glucose level to be where? Anywhere between 80 and 85. So when she first came into me, she had a glucose of what? 114. Anytime you have a high glucose, that's causing inflammation. It's causing your cells to be crusty and causing autoimmune condition. Now down here, what we measured is, this is a test that we measured here. It's called your thyroid peroxidase antibodies, or abbreviated TPO. You can just hit TPO antibodies in Google and this is going to come up. What this is this is a measure to see how much your immune system recognizes your thyroid. Okay, so remember when I told you when you had leaky gut, your immune system has a memory and then it starts to attack the tissues because it can't really differentiate between, gluten and organs in your body. So you can measure this. So this particular measurement is to see how active her immune system is attacking her thyroid. So this marker, you want this marker to be less than 9. Okay, now when she first started here, you can see this down here. You see that little, it says less than 9 there, and then it says 222. So initially when she came to me, her markers for her autoimmune condition attacking her thyroid are 222, right? I mean, that's like super, super high. Then you can see, these are the dates there. You can see the dates. Then you can see how her markers gradually went down, and we just checked them. They're down to 43. So if you do the math, she's had an 80% reduction in an autoimmune disease against her thyroid and against her body. Why? Because we educated her, we gave her a little love, we cared about her, and we showed her the path. Now, what if this is you? What if you had an 80% reduction in your autoimmune disease? An 80% reduction. How much better would your life be? How more productive would you be? Would you be able to enjoy your husband, your wife, your work, your kids, your grandkids, your hobbies better? And without a doubt, you would be able to. You'd be able to enjoy the life that God designed us to have. You just have to have a path so you can get out of it. And that's what functional medicine does. And that's what my programs do, is they get people out of these chronic autoimmune conditions. Okay, so this is the people for anyone that has a thyroid condition. I'm just going to read this here. It says, in the United States, autoimmune disease accounts for approximately what percent? 90%. So in the United States, autoimmune disease accounts for approximately 90% of hypothyroidism. Meaning, right now, if you're listening to this webinar, if you're listening to me speak, and you have a thyroid condition, you have a 90% probability you have a what? An autoimmune disease. An autoimmune condition. Getting back to this slide right here. This slide here, this measures your autoimmune disease. This measures it. Conventional labs do not run this because there's nothing that they can do for it if you have an autoimmune disease against your thyroid. Right? This is what they're going to give you. They're going to give you Synthroid, or they're going to give you Levo. Does that fix an autoimmune condition? No. The underlying cause is there. And generally speaking, what I've found is over a period of time, people's thyroid medication goes what? Up. Why would that be? Because when you have an autoimmune condition, what's your immune system, what's the immune system doing to your thyroid right this second, or any organ in your body? It's eating away at it. It's dissolving it. It's it's eating it up. It's dissolving that organ. So in your thyroid, if you have an autoimmune attack, it's like little Pac-Mans. Remember the Pac-Man game? It's slowly eating away at your thyroid, and your thyroid gets smaller. When your thyroid gets smaller, it can't produce the hormones that it once used to be able to produce because it's a smaller gland. Okay? Or let's say you don't have a thyroid, but they're giving you something else, prednisone. How much prednisone are you going to take to fix bad cells, to fix crusty cells? There's none. You can take that till the cows come home. It doesn't fix the cells. You're only as healthy as your individual cells. Methotrexate, right? None of this stuff rehabs cells. None of this stuff gets to the cause of the condition. Humira, none of this stuff gets to the cause. It just covers it up, and this is where people get sicker and sicker and sicker. So guess what? The good news is what? Can you predict the future of your health? Yes. Order the correct tests. Order the correct tests. Determine the true underlying cause. Get to the cause and you're going to get your life back. Get to the cause and you're going to feel and have the life that everyone deserves to have, that you deserve to have. Focus on the cause, not the what? Symptoms. Of course, I don't want you to have your hair falling though. I don't want you to have your 1/3 of your eyebrows fall. I don't want you to have thin nails. I don't want you to have a digestive problem. Right? I don't want you to have any of those symptoms. But what do is I focus on the cause and not the symptoms. Correct the dysfunction. Once you get to once you correct the dysfunction, right, you're going to get better. Address the body as a whole. Okay? Let's look at you as you as Mary, you as Joe, you as Bill, you as Jennifer, you as Mara, you as Kristen, right? You as Catherine. Let's look at you as a human being, just not a segmented disease. This is critical. Have a systematic approach. Dr. Google. You know Dr. Google? You ever go on Dr. Google and you try and look up thyroid? And Dr. Google says one thing. It says, something, you're confused about thyroid. Or maybe you're at the grocery store, and on the grocery store it says that coconut oil is great for you, like in Esquire People. Then you go and watch the doctors, and then they say coconut oil is what? Bad for you. It causes heart disease, and you're going to stroke out. Right? Then one article says coffee's good, then the next article says coffee's bad. So what's the truth? You're spinning around, you're going to Dr. Google and getting more and more and more and more confused. So what my curriculum, what my program does is it takes out all the confusion. Right? It clears the clouds from the sky so you can see the sun. What's truth? What's fact? What's myth? That's what functional medicine does. It eliminates all the unnecessary information that you need to get better. It's very systemized. It's like mentoring. My program is a mentoring program. Right? If you're going to go fly, could anyone go fly just by reading a book? You couldn't go fly a plane just by reading a book. Let's say you read a book and you sit in class, right? You sit in class for 6 months. You go to class every week or every day for 6 months. Would you be able to get in a plane and fly that plane? Well, if you say yes, I wouldn't want to be the person in the plane, okay? So what do? You read the book, you go to class, and then you have a co-pilot. And then you sit in the co-pilot is there, or I should say the captain's there, and you're the co-pilot. The captain's there for 10 years. You have a coach, you have a mentor trying to fly that plane. So you know if anything comes up, you can handle it because you've been trained, right? So the program, there's a lot of education, there's a lot of mentoring, there's a one-on-one coaching, there's a lot of different things involved with the program to get you better. Okay, so this is what I call my what if slide. Diana, and she was a beautiful, woman, and she died too young on a tragic death. So what if? What if they were traveling 1 less mile per hour? What if they weren't going through a tunnel? What if they had 1 less alcoholic drink? What if they were buckled up? What if 1 less paparazzi was chasing them? What if? This slide, what if one of those things were changed? Could she possibly be here today? Yes. right? Let's say she was buckled up. That probably could have saved her life. Just one thing, or let's say one less paparazzi was chasing her. That probably could have saved her life. If she had one less drink, if they were going 1 mile less per hour. So when you look at Princess Diana, if these things were changed just a little bit, if one thing was changed and all these different possible things that happened to her, if these things would have been changed just a little bit on every avenue, she would have been living. She would be here. The outcome would be different. So now let's not talk about Diana. Let's talk about you. Okay? So what if we took 11 to 12 to 13 vials of blood? What if we looked at all your inflammatory markers in your body? What if we checked your DNA? I do high-tech cutting functional medicine where we're actually looking at your DNA and where your DNA is weak. Now, you can't change your DNA, but what you can do is you can support the weak DNA, right? So just like we have brown eyes, you have blue eyes, you can't change the color of your eyes, but you can support the bad genes. There's research behind this. How do you support the genes? Not through drugs, through certain supplements. Very specific supplements will manage and handle bad genetics. So what if you had DNA testing? What if we checked your blood, right, and you have slightly anemic? Now, if you don't know what anemia is, it's when you don't have enough iron in your bloodstream. If you don't have enough iron in your blood, you can't deliver oxygen. There's lots and lots of people that are running around that have a string that's out of sync when it comes to not enough iron. So if you don't have enough iron in your body where it's a string that's out of sync, you're not going to be delivering enough oxygen to all your cells and tissues in your body. If you don't deliver enough oxygen to all your cells and tissues in your body, guess what you're going to be? You're going to be chronically inflamed. You're going to be tired. You're going to have an autoimmune condition. So what if? What if we check 96 different foods and we start figuring out the foods that you're sensitive to? What if we start to fix and heal your digestive system with the leaky gut? What if we check for lead, mercury, leads that are in your body that are messing up your digestive system? And then on top of that, we give you a lot of love and a lot of what? Education. Would you be different right now? Would you have a different outcome? Would you have energy? Would you have the life that you want to live? And I guarantee you listening to this right now, there would be a different outcome. Guaranteed. Why? Because we have a different set of tools. Or have you just had this? Drugs. See, this is the tragedy of what's happening in America right now. Has this been the only solution that you've been given? Is drugs? You deserve more than this solution. You deserve more than this solution. And you know what? There is more than this solution out there for you to get better. So what do? 94% of all failure is due to not having a system. So we want to treat the whole person, put the pieces together. A lot of people, you might be thinking, well, you know what? I've tried to lose weight, right? This would be some things that we do. People say, well, you know what? I tried nutrition, right? I got a nutrition program. Well, that didn't work. Maybe you actually tried a detox program, right? Or maybe you got some hormones. You got some cream or something. Or maybe your doctor just threw you some hormones or whatever, and you tried some hormones, right? Or maybe you tried to exercise, or maybe you got a personal trainer. See, you're piecemealing all this stuff together. The thing with the program that I do, it's all combined. We combined everything, right? So once your combined forces are combined, this is when people start to recover. This is when people reverse their autoimmune conditions and regain their health. When it's in alignment, we're on the same path. Functional medicine is about you and I working together, you and I getting to a state where you want to be healthy and can be healthy. We work hand in hand. We're a team. It's not me healing you. It's we're working for a team to get an outcome. Okay, so did I keep my promise? Do you know more about autoimmunity and your condition than before I started the workshop? I hope so. Okay, so I have about 5 or 6 more slides. So this is a picture. This is a picture of my dad. And you can see my dad's not very healthy. In fact, my dad here has 2 canes. This is the last Christmas I ever spent with my dad. My dad died about 4 months after I took this picture. My dad passed away. He had a stroke on Thursday and passed away on Sunday, which was Mother's Day. What a worse time to pass away than on Mother's Day. So, you know what? When I think about Mother's Day, I always think about my dad. Now, this is what I want to tell you about my dad. The system failed my dad. My dad was doctoring for 40 years. He never spent more than 5 minutes with any doctor. He was on 16 medications when he died. He had 2 different pacemakers put in his chest. And he could barely walk. The system failed my dad. Not that the doctors are bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. You don't get in this profession without wanting to help and care for people. No one spent any time with my dad. The only thing that they gave my dad was what? Drugs and surgery. That's the only thing that he knew. You know what? I come from a very traditional family. The dad is always superior and his kids are always below him. So my dad never wanted to listen to me. Right? So one of the things about my dad is he had great insurance. He would go in and he would have this insurance card and we'd show him the insurance card and he'd say he did whatever his insurance told him to do. Whatever the insurance was willing to pay for, he did. He would go in, my mom worked for the state at the time, and he had maybe like a $5 or $10 copay. He would go into the doctor, he would show him his insurance card, and they would give him a drug. 5 minutes and you're out. Did that educate my dad? Did that make my dad change the way he was eating? Did that make my dad eat organic foods? Did that make my dad take supplements? Did that make my dad exercise? It did none of those things. What it did is it put my dad in the grave early. That's what the insurance did. And the system was not there to care about my dad. No one loved my dad. The system is not set up for that. Because I just wish if my dad would have listened to this workshop, this webinar, there might have been a difference. There might have been a different outcome. He might have seen a different light. And my dad might be here today. Just like Princess Diana. If one of those things would have changed, or a multitude of those things would have changed on a very small level, Diana might have been here. My dad might be here. So in the beginning I said, I'm just the messenger. Don't kill the messenger. So when it comes to functional medicine, and what I do in my practice is not covered by insurance. Alright, so let me just say that again. Functional medicine is not covered by insurance. So if you want to get better, you're going to have to make a decision if you want to invest in your health. My dad, when he died, he was worth over $1 million. Does money do anything if you don't have health? It does nothing, right? At the end of the day, the most precious thing you have is your health. My son, who's now 5, right? He passed away. My dad passed away when he was like 18 months, right? All those memories are gone because no one cared enough about my dad. The system didn't care about my dad. And I don't want anyone that's listening to this webinar, I don't want you to go through like what my dad did. And you don't have to, because there's another solution. Just you listening to this conference, this webinar, tells me that you're looking for a different solution. Okay, so this is me. Alright, so if you've seen some pictures of me, this is a picture taken in high school. My nickname, so my first name is this, Hughh, right? My nickname in high school was Hughe. Huge. That's what my nickname was, okay? So what happened? I see my dad sick and suffering. Back in high school, I said, there's no way I'm going to end up like that. Within a matter of 6 months, I lost 80 pounds, and ever since then, I've been on a quest to help as many people as humanly possible. That's why I'm doing this. Because I don't want anyone to go through like what my dad did. My dad has saved thousands and thousands of lives. You know why? Because every time I do some kind of talk, some kind of presentation, I always tell my dad's story. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you. When you go to the doctor, how much time do they spend with you? Right, we kind of talked about this, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the very max. Now, my question to you is this. What does that visit cost if you go see a specialist? Because if you're listening to this, you're not seeing a GP, you're seeing a specialist. Not what you're paying, not what your copay is. What is the actual visit, the office visit? Okay, now I've heard office visits can be anywhere from $250 up to $800, and that doesn't even include labs. If they do labs, it can be another $1,000 for blood work for 2 to 3 vials of blood. Okay, so my question to you is this. Let's say when insurance was gone and you had to pay that bill 100% out of your pocket. Would you go to that doctor and spend $600 for a 5-minute office call and then $1,000 for blood work? Most people here are shaking your head no, that you would not. I'm not saying that your doctor is a bad guy or bad gal. I'm just saying that the system's just messed up, right? It's just not working right, okay? Okay, so if what I say here makes sense, there's going to be an opportunity for you to come in and see me. So what's going to happen is if you want to come in and see me, it's going to be a wellness evaluation, an hour of my time. If you, not 5 minutes, not 6 minutes, not 10 minutes, an hour. If you need 30 minutes, we'll do 30 minutes. If you need 45, we'll do 45. If we need an hour, we'll do an hour. So that's set up. That's you and I. I don't wear a white lab coat. I don't sit behind a desk. It's just you and I talking together to see how we can get you out of your condition and if the program is going to work for you, right? If you're fit for the program. Bring your labs. If you have your labs, bring your labs. The more labs you have, the better. Why? Because that shows me a pattern of your labs over a period of time. Okay, but if you don't have labs, you don't need labs. Okay, we'll order them. I order labs so we can get them. We're going to go over, is this the right approach? Okay, if what I say here tonight doesn't make sense, or if what I say when you come in doesn't make sense, we're going to go over a very specific plan of action. You're going to know on that day what I think it's going to take for you to get better and what's involved with you getting better. Now this is real critical. Your significant other. Your significant other, one, they can listen to this. They can listen to this webinar as well. Second thing is they need to be there for the appointment. Why is that? I've been in practice for 17 years, and this is what I know. If the spouse is there, you're going to get better. If the significant other is there, you're going to get better because there's support, there's education, there's understanding, there's caring, there's some love there, right? So the spouse is real critical. What I found out is when the spouse is there, you're going to get better. If the spouse doesn't show up, people just don't get better, okay? We're also going to be going over finances as well on that visit. So there's going to be a financial decision that you're going to need to be making that decision as well. So what I do here, my normal cost for my hour visit here is normally $287. But what I do is I like to reduce that to $87. Okay, so this is available for you to come in at $87, and we can sit down for an hour of my time. We'll just chat. We'll actually get down and see exactly how we can get you better. Now, you've been educated too quite a bit from this webinar, so you're going to really kind of know. You're going to have a lot better understanding of your condition and what's going on. Okay, 3 questions that people have. One, can I help everybody? And obviously, I can't help everybody. The way I view myself is I view myself as a coach, okay, or a mentor. So doctor actually means educator. So there's 3 types of students that come to me. There's the A students, there's the B students, and the C students. The A students do everything to a T. Okay, so I tell them to do something and they do it. They're 100% committed. B students, they say, yeah, doc, I want to do the program, but sometimes I need a little help. Sometimes I need a little encouragement. Are you going to be there for me? And yes, I'll be there. B students get phenomenal results. C students, I do not accept C students. C student says something like this. Well, doc, let me go home and think about it. Let me call you. I'm not really sure. I don't accept C students. I've tried to work with C students in the past, and I just have not been successful working with C students. So at the end of the day, I want to get great results, and I want to make sure that you get great results. So I'm going to work with A and B students. If you're a C student, I tell you, just save your $87, save your hour, and save my hour of time. Does insurance pay for it? And we just covered that? No. So this is going to be an investment that you're going to have to make on your own. The cost. Now, what do my programs cost? I don't know exactly what your program is going to cost, but I can tell you this. I can give you a ballpark range. I have 3 programs, okay? The most, let me just go. So I have 3 programs. The most comprehensive program is what I call the Comprehensive Metabolic Curriculum. So what I do, the most comprehensive plan can cost what it costs to put braces on kids' teeth, okay, or to take a vacation. These are ballpark figures. Now what I do is I do not like talking about finances. I hate talking about finances. So I talk about finances once. That's in the initial visit, okay? So once I get finances out of the way, I can focus on you getting better, and you can focus on you getting better, and you don't have to focus on, what does this visit cost? What does this supplement cost? What I do is I bundle my fees together, meaning this. Everything would be included, and you know what that's going to be on that initial visit. So, for example, all the blood work that you're going to need was going to be included. All the post-blood work that you're going to need is included. Their hormonal panel, the food sensitivity testing, DNA testing is all included. All the supplements are also going to be included. All the reports I'm going to have to do on these labs are also included. All the follow-up visits are also included. So sometimes I can meet people 1 time a week, starting off. Sometimes I meet people once every other week, once every 3rd week, once a month. So it can range from starting off at 1 time a week to every other week to once every 3rd week to once a month. So as you go through the program and get better and better and better, I see you less and less and less. Okay, so the goal at the end of the program is that you have a high level of health. So everything is included in the curriculum. I also have an online university. Okay, so what that is that's where I have a lot of educational things online that are part of the curriculum. So I have a workshop on what's good fat, what's bad fat. I have a workshop on reading your own blood work. So it's a lot of education that you would do at home, at your own leisure, that's also involved in the curriculum. So all the supplements would be included. The case workup, the research, you can call me, you can text me, you can email me. The doctor's visits are anywhere between 6 and 8 visits, and then the online university. Now I also have a program that I call the GI curriculum, which this is roughly half of what braces cost. This is a little less investment. Basically the same things are involved, less blood work, right? So I just pick the specific labs that you're actually going to need, the most blood work that you're going to need, and then there's some supplements in there, but everything's just a little less, okay? So those are the 2 main programs. I have another 3rd program, which is where we just do the food sensitivity testing, and then you have access to the online university, okay? So there's 3 programs. I developed these 3 programs to fit everyone's need and financial need as well. So I'm going to go through a couple slides here. There's actually 2 more slides here. This next slide is of Jackie, so you're going to hear her success story.
Well, my name is Jackie, and I was diagnosed with lupus in 2006. I actually was diagnosed with lupus and Sjogren's syndrome. My initial, I couldn't, my rings wouldn't fit on my fingers, my feet didn't fit in my shoes. I had just inflammation rampant across my whole body. It hurt to get up in the morning, it hurt to walk, it hurt to carry my son's car seat. I mean, it was just awful. Immediately they said, oh, you've got lupus. You've got lupus. So we're going to give you some medications.
Okay.
And here we are. We've got, let's take care of this. So we got methotrexate, which is a chemotherapy drug that suppresses the immune system. And this is naproxen, which is, and they also gave me Tylenol 3 for pain. And again, all of these medications are just masking the problem.
Right.
They're not taking care of it. So and the thing that really took care of my swelling was prednisone. And so from 2006 to like last September, Labor Day was my cutoff day of taking prednisone. I get a flare up again and they go, oh, you need more prednisone. I was, okay, you got more prednisone. My whole goal was to get off it, but every time I tried to get off it, I'd be great for a while, and then I'd have this huge flare up all over again. And so I didn't quite know what to do until I came here. Well, the first step was I got some blood work done, and we looked over the blood work and saw what the broken strings were. And Dr. Hugh pretty much knew what to do to help mend those broken strings. Is life like no? Well, I wake up in the morning and I feel rested. I have energy. I'm not thirsty. My hair is thicker. I feel like I have a ton of energy for my kids. I teach, and I'm loving life, really.
That's awesome.
It's been wonderful. I never knew that something so simple could make such a huge difference in my health and how I feel about myself, and everybody's noticing how different I look. And
That's great.
Being able to sleep without pain. I feel like I get everything done in the time that I have. Whereas before, I was sluggish and I was slow, and I have to do that. I mean, even my attitude toward life was depressed. I felt depression. I actually have a depression pill in here too. I mean, I don't need that anymore either, by the way. I wanted to be healthy. I was sick of being sick. And I would say go to a seminar, because that's what I did. I went to a seminar first. They're free. Go. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours of your time. And I was blown away with what I had been doing that was making me sick. I had no idea. I did not know. And ignorance is not bliss. You don't want to go through life sick. So I went to this workshop. It was free. And I brought my husband along the second time because I wanted him to hear it too. And that's a key thing, by the way, is if you're trying something new, get a support group around you, even if it's just one person like your husband. I'm just so grateful to have gone to that seminar because it totally turned everything on its ear. It's made a difference for me and my husband and my family, and we're healthy. And without your health, you have nothing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. So this is my last slide, just to give people some more clarity on what functional medicine is. So this is actually Jackie's medicine cabinet. Okay, so this is her medicine cabinet. You can see all these drugs in here. She was on methotrexate, which is a chemotherapy drug. So these are all her drugs. And then this here, so this is her medicine cabinet. I call this is her wellness cabinet. So what do we have here? We put her on fish oil. We got some stuff to help heal the cells. Guess what? She was sensitive to milk, so now she's on what? Coconut milk. This stuff in here was to kill, she had overgrowth, bad stuff in her digestive system. We put her on some good probiotics. This is for her DNA. This is for some feel-good hormones in her body. She had slight anemia, right? So this is some iron stuff. This is a supplement to help restore and kill bad gut bacteria. And she was low on vitamin D. So this is what it looked like. Jackie sat through a workshop, right? She listened to a webinar just like you're sitting through. She brought in her husband. Her husband was there. We went through all her blood work. We went through finances, right? We figured finances out that night. We got finances handled that night, right? So once we got the finances all set up, I ordered the blood work. I met her 2 weeks later after we got the blood work. That was an hour visit to go over the blood work. we started to getting on her an anti-inflammatory diet. For 6 weeks, we just worked on an anti-inflammatory diet. So I met her every other week for 6 weeks. Then we started working on her gut. You know, that gut protocol can be anywhere from 2 to 3 months. We started working on her gut. Then when we started working on her gut, towards the end part of her gut program, we started working on her DNA. And we started working on her poor iron status. So her program, start to finish, was roughly 6 months. And she would come in, and I had her read books, and I had her go online to get the result that she's actually gotten to, and she's actually changed her life. So I want to end off with one last story. So there's this guy, and he lives in the coast, and there's a big hurricane coming in. Let's say this Gulf of Mexico. There's a big hurricane coming in, and they're evacuating the town. He lived right on the coast there, or the Gulf. They come knocking on the door. They come driving up with a Jeep, right? And they knock on the door and say, "Sir, you gotta leave, because tomorrow this is going to be flooded." He says, No, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay and pray about it, okay? So the next day they come in with a boat, right? So the National Guard comes in with a boat, and he's on his roof, and they yell to him, "Sir, come down. This area is going to be completely flooded. Your house is going to be completely flooded. You need to come down and get in the boat." He said, No. I'm going to sit here and pray about it. Okay. The next day he's on his chimney, perched on his chimney like a little squirrel. Right, and they have a helicopter. A helicopter comes in, and they throw a rope down to him, and they say, Sir, grab the rope. This is the last opportunity you have to get out of here." He says, No, I'm going to pray about it. Well, what happens to our fella? He actually ends up, dying. So he's in heaven, and he's really, really mad. Right, he sees God, and he comes up to God, and he says, God, what happened? I prayed, and I still died. And God said this: "Well, son, I sent you a Jeep, and you didn't take that. I sent you a boat, and you didn't take that. And I sent you a helicopter, and you didn't take that. What else was I supposed to do?" Right? So here's my moral of the story. I don't know if you were diagnosed a week ago with your condition, and I would be the Jeep. I don't know if you were diagnosed 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I'd be the boat. I don't know if you were diagnosed 10, 15, 20, or 30 years ago, and I'd be the helicopter. The moral of the story is you can get better. And with everything you do in life, there's always a leap of what? Faith. So I want to tell you, I appreciate you listening to this webinar, and you can get better. And I look forward to you. Seeing me in my practice. Take care.